Does money stress you out? If so, know that you are not alone. In today's video, we're going to talk about moving from financial fears to financial confidence and really looking at what money anxiety really is. So where does money anxiety come from? Where do these fears stem from? A lot of times the core wounds of these come from our childhood. We're born into situations, maybe our parents faced hardship, there's been financial loss. So this imprints us from a very young age. Most of our imprints around money happen from the age of 0 to 5, or some people say up to 7. And this can come from anything such as family situations around money, but also comparisons when you're young at school, or for example, not being breastfed can create scarcity, or not being fed on demand. These are all terms or things that have been researched and talked about, but everyone has their own story. There's not a right or wrong way to live with it, and there's not like, let's go and punish everyone or resent people for it. The main idea here is, how can we understand what our money story has been? How can we see where it's happened and unleash this to a new story? So number one, it can come a lot from our childhood. Another thing, a layer deeper, is that it can come from ancestral patterns. For example, if your family have lived in a certain way or been in a certain social class, these ways of living repeat generation to generation. I have a client, for example, he says that his parents were really workers and he finds it very hard to break out of that conditioning. Whereas he's got a friend who now is the head of a Formula One team, whose family didn't have a lot when they met, but their background was really from royalty. And so he had that in his blood. He was already with that blueprint in him to really step up to that position. So it's just interesting to observe this and how we can hit glass ceilings or unconscious patterns that are keeping us in a certain place. So really looking at family line, our story from childhood, can really help us understand what is going on in terms of our relationship to money and where these anxieties could come from. Another very common cause of money anxiety or financial anxieties can be social pressure. And this is something that I've seen with many clients around me, because it is about keeping up with the Joneses, let's say, nowadays. It's about comparing ourselves. This societal pressure is about maybe family expectations, a certain way you want to live, certain friends you have around you. And so it's really important to understand what your goals are, where you want to get to, what your story has been, because many people come from different backgrounds, willing different things, and what's important to you to live by your trajectory. Of course, it's easier said than done, especially when you have children or others demanding certain things from you, maybe family members or parents expecting a certain way of living that is not necessarily aligned with you. So this does create also a lot of anxiety around money and can make yourself question this. And a third point around where this anxiety can come from is maybe financial mistakes that you've done in the past. For example, yourself not investing well, losing money, having been made redundant. Different situations can cause a lot of stress around finances. And so just to be aware of what your story is, what's caused these stresses, where you're at, maybe you have lost some money, or maybe someone in your family has, they've lost their house, and this can really impact you and your decisions around your finances. And so just becoming aware of these kind of 3 points of where you're at, your family story, where you are in terms of comparisons or how others are living, societal expectations around money, and then also anything that you've experienced in terms of financial losses, anything, could really build into your money anxiety. Of course, there are many other causes of this, but these are the top 3 that I've really witnessed with different clients that I've worked with. So now we've kind of determined where it's come from, I would like to look at what it really is and where you can go from here. What money anxiety really is and how it can show up in your life is in many different ways. And I like to look at it from the fight, flight, freeze, fawning trauma responses. Sometimes we can feel this in our bodies if we're maybe not so aware of this. Other ways we can see this in our lives, for example, is impulse spending or overspending. Just buy a lot of things and that's going to cover up that feeling inside, or I need to have that. Comparing yourself and going, okay, I'm going to put that on a credit card. Let me get that into my life because that person has that too. So this is a big step of, let's say, looking at how this money anxiety can show up in your life. Another way is, for example, not being able to spend at all. Some people completely freeze when they have to spend money. They get anxiety when bills come in. They completely lose them. They don't stay on top of their finances, get out of date with everything, where everything is and where the payments are, because they block and they can't deal with that. Another way that's very common, and I've seen with many clients, is not being able to open up your bank account, not being able to budget, and not even like wanting to know anything about the numbers or your life or what this looks like. So really pushing that away. Now, what can we do to really work on these? I know this might seem like so much to look at, but there are solutions. There are ways that we can take small steps to start changing our money habits. And the first step I normally tell clients is track your money habits. Track where you're spending it, look at your budget. If it scares you to do a budget, just write down where the money is going. And a lot of times in the beginning, people feel nervous. They can't do that. I'm not good with numbers. That's the feedback I get. But once you get into it, it's like a little game. You can make it fun. You can start seeing what patterns come out of that, where the money is going. And we want to start this judgment-free. So not saying, oh, I shouldn't have spent that, or I shouldn't have gone out on that meal, or, what is this? That's not the point here. We're not here to judge the way you deal with money. We're here to take a screenshot, a snapshot, a picture of where you're currently at. Because when we know where you're currently at, we can take the next step forward. If we don't know where you're at, we're just constantly in a loop trying to find the next way out, but we're stuck in the same cycle. So I first suggest to start writing down your numbers, looking at where they're at, facing them front on. And it might be hard to do this right now. So what I'm going to suggest is you pause this or take out your phone, mark it in your diary and say, I'm going to do a money date with myself. I'm going to take a moment where I'm just going to start tracking it, start looking at it. The next way is really celebrating these small wins, celebrating the fact that you're showing up for your finances, celebrating the fact that you might be shifting a pattern, either buying yourself something because you're constantly hoarding something that you need, or not going out on a shopping spree when something comes up, and maybe going through your emotions, understanding what is holding you back around it. And really changing those patterns can really start changing the way you deal with money. And really, trust me, it's about the small steps, the small wins, celebrating these that really allow you to take new steps forward. And finally, it's about reframing things. A lot of times I hear this constant story, I'm not good with money, I'm not good with numbers, I don't know how to deal with my finances. And I would like you to reframe that for yourself to saying, I'm learning how to deal with my numbers. I'm learning how to deal with my finances. I'm going step by step to integrate this. There are so many emotions below that might make us avoid our numbers, that might make us want to run away. So my idea here is to really shift away from fears around money, money anxiety, towards a new way of dealing with money and rewriting your money story. This story that you're born into, the story that you've lived, can be rewritten, and it starts with you at this moment in time. It starts with you rewriting your beliefs, changing the way you speak about it, and celebrating every single little win. And if it's hard for you, close your eyes, visualize, maybe journal about it, what's blocking you, feel into your body, go for a run or a walk, ask yourself the question, what is going on and how can I overcome that block that is holding me back? I hope this inspires you. Please follow this channel if you would like to receive more videos around it. Share it with anyone who could get inspired more. And I've got a free guide below for solopreneurs. If that at all interests you, I would love to share more and to really help more people on their journey towards financial freedom.